the real problem with Brian Williams is that all through the Iraq War, he worked for General Electric, who owned NBC at the time. They're a huge defense contractor. How many checks do you take from a defense contractor in the middle of an illegal war before you stop calling yourself a journalist? So that's number one. Number two, way worse than that even, is that Brian Williams would bring on generals, retired army people, or military people, to give us the straight dope about what was happening in Iraq, so that to inform the American public, so we could make up our minds with accurate information about what's really happening over there. Except that's not what was happening. Those generals and all those ex-military people he was bringing on to give us the straight dope about what was happening in the war weren't giving us the straight dope about what was happening in the war, because they were all on the take from the military-industrial complex. So they would all come on and say, well, we need more tanks over there. We got to get more there. And so they'd always want more war, more war. Brian Williams never told us that those military people were on the take, taking money from the military-industrial complex. Never told us. Which is malfeasance, journalistically. Guess the guy who did tell us won a Pulitzer Prize for it in the New York Times. After that story was published, after he won the award for that story, exposing Brian Williams and the NBC News, Brian Williams still never told his audience about it. And that's the real problem. Of course they pretend, of course they pretend that's the problem. Oh, that he puffed up his war record? He did a little stolen valor, which is what Brian Williams did. That's hardly the real wrongdoing. And now you're going to see you want to see war propaganda? And now this guy can't do it enough. So here's the night when they started bombing, the United States started bombing Syria in response to a false flag gas attack. The second one so far that I've seen. Here, listen to this.
Go into greater detail. We see these beautiful pictures at night from the decks of these two U.S. Navy vessels in the eastern Mediterranean. I am tempted to quote the great Leonard Cohen, I'm guided by the beauty of our weapons. And they are beautiful pictures of fearsome armaments making what is for them a brief flight over to this airfield. What did they hit? What are you convinced?
Okay, so let's play that again and break it down for this soulless cheerleader of war, this corporate tool who is a menace to peace-loving people everywhere. War profiteer and champion, Brian Williams. But it's not just him. He's just the worst at it. He's just the guy who will do that the most. They all do it. They're all doing it right now. No one at MSNBC is telling you the truth. Hey, we're there because of a fossil fuel pipeline. And this bullshit that we care about people is exactly what that is. And you realize we set the whole Mideast on fire doing exactly the same thing we're trying to do now. Topple a dictator at the behest of the Saudis. And in Israel. Do you realize that we're doing that again?